DZ and Tim Hauraney here with you at the Canadian Grand Prix. Let's talk Mercedes right here. So, a grueling triple header in Europe out there. Didn't quite go Mercedes' way there. They're now third in the Constructors, but they really didn't take many points out there in the three races. But Tim, was that more down to the circuit that you were figuring? And obviously there's reliability issues they're dealing with, but how do you think that projects moving forward for them?
You know, I think it was a case of all of those things that you mentioned. I mean, obviously Monaco was a huge disappointment for this team, considering what happened there with a lot of mechanical issues. Obviously with George Russell getting stopped in the tunnel in Monaco as well, and then that just compounding things in the race and making it worse, really. And then if you take a look at track characteristics in weather, so the Mercedes car, they're pretty decent in the high-speed content sphere. So if you take a look at Spain, which was a good example of that, you have a range of corners that have different speed profiles that are kind of mixed in with it. You've got low speed, medium speed, and high speed corners. So essentially that was a track I was expecting Mercedes to be a little stronger than what they were. But what I think really plagued them the most, and the team did speak on this, was the fact that the temperatures in Spain were just so high. That was an extremely hot race for them. And how their car manages the tire and the amount of degradation that their car puts the tires throughout a race distance or qualifying is quite high. And so when you come here to Canada, and so far, I mean, the weather's been a lot cooler than what it was in Spain. And so I think this is a type of a track here in Canada that could really suit the Mercedes and try and get them sort of back in the game, if you will, in terms of the Constructors' Championship. Because, like you said, Z, they have taken a hit here, going from second in the Constructors down to third. I mean, it's definitely, obviously, not where they want to be.
Another big question floating around Mercedes is what will their driver lineup look like in 2026? George Russell still looking to sign a contract, but how much of this is down to George and his results from this season versus perhaps what the driver market is presenting for the next one? I feel like you know what I'm asking you.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like, well, is he going to be around?
Will he?
I mean, look, this has got to be the best start to George Russell's Formula One career. He's been fantastic so far this season, and we were joking like, well, everybody calls him Mr. Saturday, and I think we should start calling him Mr. Weekend, because he's been doing such a great job of putting an entire race weekend together. I mean, his Grand Prix, his races have been efficient. He has capitalized on others' mistakes. He's just been hanging around in races and sort of picking up the scraps as they sort of fall off the table, so to speak. And I think for George, he has to make sure that, one, he's at his A game. Two, he's limiting the amount of mistakes that he makes within a weekend, because now he's the team leader. He's taken over for Lewis Hamilton at this team. And he's also got to make sure that he's helping bring Kimi Antonelli along, which is something we'll talk about in a minute. And I think for George, it's super important to try and get this contract deal with Mercedes locked in soon, because obviously we know that Max Verstappen, there's been rumblings, a lot of rumors in this paddock that he may want to leave Red Bull at some point, and he may want to move somewhere else. And Toto Wolff likes Max Verstappen, and he would love to have him on his team. And I think for George, you kind of got to try and find a way of putting all that noise in the back of your mind and just focus on the racing. And I think so far he's done a really good job at doing that.
Obviously, to be a world champion, yes, it's down to the driver and their abilities, but it's most certainly down to the car as well. The car that George has stepped into in Mercedes is not the one that he probably would have been expecting when he left Williams for Mercedes. But next year, with the regulation changes, that could be entirely different. And he might have a free opportunity, the best opportunity possible to go out and, actually battle for a championship. How do you look at George if he were to be in that car and Mercedes were competitive in that car? Do you think he has what it takes to be a World Driver Championship?
I do. He's won drivers' titles in other categories. I think one of the championships that was probably really hard fought for himself was his Formula 2 championship that he won. He was ultra impressive within that season. I remember following and reporting on him in that championship that year. I think for George, he has everything that he needs to be a world champion. He just needs the car and the equipment. And with 2026 coming online, brand new power units, different type of car, this is that opportunity for not only for himself, but if he sticks around at Mercedes, if they bring him back, that could be one of those transformational type of a seasons like we've seen in 2014 with the hybrid era coming online and just how dominant Mercedes is. They know how to build power units, they do. So they know what they're doing in that sphere. It's just getting all those components right to execute on the season that lies ahead, and that's where this challenge lies for the team.
Well, there's a number of people who I'm sure would love to be in a car like that if they do get things right. And speaking of people who have the potential to be world champions, let's move on to his teammate there in Kimi Antonelli. There's a lot of pressure, obviously, on the young driver there. He's supposed to be the next great Italian driver. Everyone's really expecting that. Obviously, a little bit disappointing in the triple header there. Not always down to him there with the reliability on the car, but overall, what have you made of Kimi's first season thus far, 10 races in?
It's been impressive. I mean, he's been the most prepared rookie coming into Formula One that I've ever seen. Like, Mercedes has done a great job of getting him ready and getting him to understand the level and the amount of people that he has to work with within a full race weekend. I mean, he's used to working with like 7 people. Now he's come here and he's working with like 700 people.
He's
so it's
way
like
bigger.
It's a huge difference, right? And when you're 18 years old and you're just taking that in, that's a lot. And I think he's done a really nice job of compartmentalizing, handling all of it, and at the same time going out on track and executing. If you go back to Imola, I think he learned a lot from that race weekend. He brought in his family, his friends. He had his high school friends come to the track on the Thursday, and I think what happened was he just got way too overloaded. Way too much going on. Didn't have enough time for himself to focus on what he needed to do as a driver. It's extremely important that during your race weekends, you're leaving yourself some space for your time where you can get your head ready for what you need to do with inside the race car. And I think he learned a lot from Imola on that weekend and what he needs to do as a driver to get himself ready for a race weekend. And I think it spilled over a little bit into Monaco as well. And I think Monaco is just such a difficult track. It's a driver's track, but you have to have experience on it. He doesn't have like a ton of experience racing at Monaco. Coming into Spain, thought he did a little bit of a better job. And I think coming into Canada, this is a track that he doesn't even know. He's never driven on it. I'm going to be really curious to see how he does here. But so far, I've been really impressed with Kimi Antonelli.
One of the greatest points of intrigue heading into the season was just the number of rookies that were in seats because, obviously in the most recent history of Formula One, we haven't seen that. Teams more specifically, haven't been willing to take that risk and put young drivers in the car. This year, we got a number of them. How would you say that Kimi has performed relative to the other rookies on the grid thus far?
At the beginning of the season, I would have said that Antonelli was the top rookie. I would say that he was the best at that moment. Monaco changed things from my perspective with what Isaac Hajar did and how impressive he was in Monaco. So like I said, that's a driver's track. Okay, and if you don't have a lot of laps on it, it's going to be really difficult. If you don't have a lot of laps on it in an F1 car, it's going to make it even more challenging. And I thought Hajar that weekend really stood out to me of just how impressive a driver, he actually is. The CEO of Racing Bulls, Peter Bayer, is trying to keep him in the seat. He doesn't want Red Bull to come and pick him up and put him in their car for next year. He's doing everything he can to hold on to him because he's that impressive. And so I would say for me now, coming into Canada, I would say Hajar, Antonelli, I would say both of them are sort of tied for that best overall rookie.
This is going to be it's a bit of a subjective question here, and it's also the answer could vary because I think it varies on the person. But when do you think that an F1 driver who's a rookie stops feeling like a rookie in the car? What do you think really needs to happen? Obviously, it could be different depending on the driver, but how many weekends do you think would it be fair to kind of say, I don't know, maybe that rookie feeling should at least be dissipating, shaking off a little bit?
I would say it you're kind of getting close to it right now.
The 10th race.
But I would say that your learning needs to advance because you're now looking at these rookies and being like, okay, how are they doing with the tires? Because that's where a lot of the difference is now going to be made, especially within the race. Like, how are they prepping the tire to get it ready during the race and not getting too excited and overcooking the tire and driving a ton of heat into it and creating a ton of thermal degradation and really blowing up your entire Grand Prix. We've seen Kimi have that struggle. We've seen Isaac as well. We've seen the rookies have those struggles. That's where the next sort of evolution and learning that needs to happen for these drivers, the rookies, is just understanding the Pirelli tire and how it degrades within a race weekend, and that's something that it doesn't take months, it takes years.
Well, obviously, the last regulation change for Mercedes didn't go the way that they would have wanted. They've kind of been in this middle zone, not challenging for constructors' titles, not challenging for driver championships. But 2014, obviously, that's really what's kind of made every single bit of what you think about Mercedes in Formula One, the hybrid era. People are kind of looking at 2026 as perhaps another moment where Mercedes and their engine could shine. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think they're going to be at the front of the grid? Is that almost like a guarantee at this point, or what's your thought there?
Yeah, from what I've been hearing so far, and again, these are just paddock rumors, right, is that Mercedes has really advanced their development with their 2026 power unit. The power units that are going to be coming online next season, they're a lot more simplistic than what these ones are. They're not going to have to worry about the MGUH, which is the motor generator unit heat, and essentially the capturing vessel that captures the heat from the turbo and other components on the car and stuffs that energy into the battery. That technology is all going away, and it's now going to be kinetic energy that's going to be powering these batteries for the V6 twin turbo engine. I think for Mercedes, they have such a good understanding and grasp on all of that. I think they're probably going to hit the road as the quicker team. Whoever's going to have those power units is definitely going to have a leg up. And I think that's when the other teams are going to have to start making bigger strides, bigger steps to try and catch up with them. But I do have a feeling Mercedes may hit the road as the quickest team to start that season.
Well, as you said,